Haq. I am a director at Edupro. My 26 years in international education include roles in business development, academic management, training, and curriculum design. I honestly love the work that I do. That is helping learners not just achieve qualifications, but unlock their potential as professionals and eventually as change makers. And then at EduPro, I'm grateful to work with a team that believes in sustainable education and in nurturing a global learning community that's going to thrive on collaboration and impact. Kindly the next slide, please. So the world is moving towards achieving net zero. Industries, governments, and communities are being challenged to cut emissions, rethink resources, and redesign systems for a greener, more resilient future. I want us to watch this short clip. If we could please play this short video. And this short clip playing on achieving net zero isn't just a policy ambition or a corporate goal. It's a global imperative. It's about transforming the way we live, the way we work, and learn. And along with this, there are some quick questions I want you to think about. What role will you play in this transition? What skills will you need for the green jobs of tomorrow? And more importantly, how can we, as educators, institutions, and professionals, come together to support this change? And this is exactly why we're here today. Achieving net zero is not just about technology, it's about people. It's about skills, the mindsets, and the talents. Today, by launching the Green Talent Awards 2025, EduPro is recognizing and simultaneously nurturing the change makers who will lead this transformation towards achieving net zero. So our focus is on green skills. We believe our focus bridges the gap between ambition and action. So if we jump over to the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about who we are. So EduPro is a UK-based awarding organization with a global reach. What sets us apart is our commitment to delivering sustainable, ethical, and industry-aligned qualifications, the kind of education that makes a real difference. Through our global partnerships, we ensure our learners gain skills that are relevant, recognized, and future-ready, whether they're studying in the UK, Asia, Africa, or beyond. The next slide will tell us a little bit about what our vision and focus does. How does it drive the work that we do? So our industry-led learning framework connects education to the real world and builds learning communities. As the world evolves, so does our learning at EduPro. We do this through continuous research. Over the years, we have been assessing, developing, and delivering future-ready qualifications. So our globally recognized credentials are meant to empower individuals with sustainable and lifelong careers, and that's exactly what they do. Where are we today? We've supported over 2,000 graduates globally. We offer more than 40 qualifications designed in the UK but delivered globally. So we help ensure that learners everywhere can access high quality, industry relevant education. We have 22 centers as of now across Europe, Asia, and Africa, and we're growing. And it's not because of us, it's because of the universal need for ethical and sustainable education. So, this has been our journey so far towards creating a global learning community ready to lead the green economy that we're going to be talking about next. Um, I'd like to run us through a very quick poll. First of all, I'd like to understand, where are you joining us from? Kindly do take a moment to open the Slido app, the link that you see on your screen. Kindly click on it. Please do let us know, where are you joining from today? It's always inspiring to see the global community come together for a cause like this. Your voices, your locations, your stories, our stories, they matter, because the green skills that we're talking about today are global in impact. Okay, as we have different communities and different people coming in. Wow. Okay. So this takes me to the next poll, a very quick one as well, before I introduce Rob. Um, Interesting to see how far our reach extends. We're talking about real world challenges you're seeing in your communities. So, what environmental issues are you facing? If you could let us know that. Is it air pollution? Is it deforestation? Is it plastic waste? Or the effects of climate change? What are the environmental issues that you are facing in your communities? And your feedback, your insight, it helps us as a global learning community. It helps us together to understand where we need to focus our efforts. All right. So next, I want to quickly jump over to someone very important here, Robert Martin Hartley. Rob is our chair for the Edupro Green Talent Awards, and he's a key figure in all of this, as he's an inspiring leader in this in the run towards sustainability. With over 30 years of global experience in education, corporate consulting, and sustainability, Robert has worked across industries, mentored green startups, and championed including inclusive entrepreneurship. He's a senior lecturer at Nottingham Trent University's Business School, where he teaches subjects like entrepreneurship, fintech, and leadership, with a focus always on sustainability. That's Rob. His insights are grounded in real-world impact, from shaping green finance strategies to supporting social enterprises. So, we're honored to have Rob guiding the Green Talent Awards 2025 as we build a community of change makers committed to driving green innovation. So, with utmost pleasure, I hand it over now to Rob as he guides us through the importance of green skills and the exciting opportunities ahead. Over to you, Rob.
Thank you, Abid. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for the opportunity that EduPro have afforded me to join them on their journey. It is a really unique offering, EduPro, in as much that they are not just embedding sustainability into the curriculum, but I believe that they are opening avenues up to their learners of all the opportunities there are within sustainability. So quickly, just a bit to give you a little bit of a little bit of self-indulgence in how I develop my skills. I'm originally a civil engineer and also a minerals resource engineer. And my first introduction was construction materials, ready-mix concrete in Saudi Arabia, running concrete plants in Riyadh, Hofuf, and Dammam in the Philippines, brick plants, concrete plants, and then mines and quarries. which sounds not very green. But the industry was forced to become green. So I fell into various major green projects. I was the general manager of the Eden project, which is the largest botanic garden in the world, where we had a disused china clay pit and we created humitropic biodomes, and it became a very large visitors attraction to creating one of the world's largest manufactured gardens. And that involved us having to produce manufactured soils from green waste compost. And I was involved in waste to energy projects, anaerobic digestion plants, hydroelectric thermal schemes for villages to generate their own electricity, uh, big solar energy projects, how to fund and finance them, food poverty in my local community. I get involved in eco farms and producing fruits and vegetables by joining the power of allotments. Um, and then I've just found myself, it's not as a career, I found it as a passion. You talk about continued professional development, but there's also something called continued personal development. And I believe that if you do something that you're passionate in, it doesn't become a job. You're actually creating. So the ability to create is quite a phenomenal thing. If you can actually create something, and sustainability affords that opportunity. Next slide, please. So what are green skills? Well, Abid has introduced ourselves to the skills that you may require. But what we need to realize is that a lot of these skills are not just soft skills and hard skills. They're how you blend these skills together. UNESCO, when we'll come on to this later, gives us the opportunity, UNESCO, to understand ways of thinking, ways of practice, and ways of being. And so critical thinking, problem solving, looking at what the future holds, being strategic, reflecting on practice, these are all important skills. But I like the way that UNESCO says, well, there's the ways that you think, the ways that you practice, and also the ways that you reflect. Next slide, please. So what an important thing is where do these skills come from? And what you'll find is that when you're involved in sustainability, it's new and you are developing the skills and but the need to have these soft skills in areas that we don't know, green technology, it's very new. Governments, authorities, policymakers are learning from industry. They're learning from service providers. So you end up shaping the policy. But the most important thing is looking at having these really good emotional skills. Are you a good listener, a good speaker? The ability to solve problems. How do we solve problems? What techniques do we use? I'm a big fan of Six Sigma Lean, for example. So I look at things in a very different way. I look at it as process. I look at value stream mapping. I like to map the current state and understand what the future state could look like. And those skills that lean qualifications give me, an understanding about lean and the business improvement wheel and plan, do, check, act, and plan, do, study, act. And for those that are familiar, take it one stage further, define the problem, measure it, analyze it, investigate it, control it. These type of skills are very useful when you are embarking on a green career. So there are process by process, which is implicit, and that's very useful. Strategic. I always say to every learner, you must have a strategic viewpoint. You must be able to do situation analysis, you understand SWOT analysis, pestle analysis, Porter's five forces. But by using these models, we understand they determine our strategies, whether they're strategic intents, mission statements, operational strategies. I'm dealing with a project at the moment for garment landfill reducing garments are going away from landfill. And we've come up with strategies that will create improving recycling rates, reduce the amount of spend on garments, minimize waste garments going to landfill. And how do we do that? We do it through education. We do it through a pilot scheme for school garments. And we're also looking at a clothing exchange. So we've used the value chain and looked at the value chain to solve the problem. And that's just a little example of how we've become strategic in our problem solving. Teamwork, understanding that you can't do this on your own. You've got to collaborate to be able to put the sum of the parts together to make things happen. So when we look at SDGs, when we actually home in on improving, reducing pollution, we've got to collectively do it, but someone's got to set the example. Next slide, please. So we're now going to go on to some of the trends and the jobs in the sector. And this is where it gets intriguing because there are specific job titles and there are specific jobs being created, but there's also the opportunity to look at other opportunities. So the circular economy in terms of creating jobs and looking at environmental pollution, emissions, controlling emissions, uh, looking at how we use green technology, how we use AI, how we use fintech, looking at renewable energy. There's so many different forms: tidal power, solar energy, hydroelectric energy. And looking at the types of careers that we are, is you're involved in problem solving, trying to save our planet. And as I said, textile landfill, it's a big problem in terms of the amount of textiles that we actually produce that go into landfill. How can we recycle, recover, reuse? These are the type of things we're looking at. And you are going to be transformational leaders. There's no doubt in sustainability. You have that ability to be transformational. So the global trends that are pushing us this way. When I got involved in my career, it was driven by regulation, driven by legislation. But actually, what we found is that we can actually make our business models more efficient if we embrace in sustainability. We can reduce our energy costs. We can actually create new products. We can turn waste into products. We can reduce the cost of disposal of waste. There are so many positive things, but not just driven by regulation, not just driven by legislation or policy. So we're seeing green entrepreneurs, we're seeing social investors, but we have to be driven by global, national, and local trends. So we're trying to reduce the carbon footprint. We're trying to get skills in carbon literacy. We're trying to generate new jobs in green technology. So where are the jobs? More jobs are actually in the not-for-profit sector than the for-profit sector. And we have pledges, we have targets that we're aiming to try to achieve. They may not be totally realistic, but we need to set the bar high. And we're driven by ESG policies that are set by our professional bodies. And we're also looking at CSR, we're looking at ethical codes of conduct in our professions, whether we're in banking, investment, we're dealing with ESG portfolios, we're involved in construction, we're involved in HR. Wherever we are in that value chain, we have a standard that we're trying to achieve. Next slide, please. So the aims of countries like the UK may be may be achievable, maybe not, but we need some target. What doesn't get measured doesn't get managed, and therefore we do have to set targets. Like a business, a target-based mission statement with a vision. And so the things that we're looking to do is to reduce the pollution of transport. I'm involved as a projects director for restoration of the Derby-San Diego Canal, which is a former waterway, which takes vehicles off the road and we use waterborne transport. This also creates a green space for walkers. It also allows the canal to deliver freight, whereas it was being delivered by road. These canals exist all over the world and have existed for a long time, but they were taken over by the railways. and they were taken over then by big road systems. And they were almost going backwards to what we used to do, where transport was less pollutant. And we're looking at different energy schemes. One doesn't fit all. The solution isn't just wind power. It isn't just tidal power. It isn't just thermal. It isn't just hydroelectric. It's using the energy, encapsulating it that is easily for your community. So we're trying to be less restrictive on the planning permissions to allow that to happen. I noticed somebody's from Malaysia. I lived in Desaru, and when I lived in Desaru, I was managing a quarry, and I found out in Desaru, actually, sustainability has been there 40 years ago, because in Desaru, they had to survive. They pick a honey mango from the tree. They build their own houses by making construction materials from the sand that exists, from coral, from coconut shells. They are very innovative. And so the innovation for sustainability is actually more in emerging countries, less developed countries, than the developed countries that we live in, because they've had to practice it. This is what makes sustainability so fascinating. It's not new. It's been there and it's been practiced. And people don't produce waste food, putrescible waste. If you go to countries like Malaysia, if I was in the Kampons or the barangay of the Philippines or the Kampons of Malaysia, there would be no food waste. But if you come into a developed country, they throw the food away. The amount of food waste they generate is enormous. So we set these targets, but we're learning from the countries that we least expect. Diversity matters. Of course, it matters. It matters because it makes us richer. It makes us richer in our experiences that we can share in making our communities greener. Next slide, please. So green careers, this is the fascinating thing. You can be green in any sector. You can work for a mining company, a construction company, a retail company, and you can have an impact by making them greener. And I call it the quick wins. Can it happen now? Is it reversible? And does it cost nothing? And just by the way that you practice and live your life, you can take that into your job. And by doing that, you make an impact. And what you'll invariably find is it reduces their costs. It creates new products for green consumers. It gets a better investment on their return for the business. And overall, it creates efficiency gains. So we need to look at this, and there are platforms that you can find national careers, and you can look at certain type of jobs, and we can look at in audit, in finance, in working in the environmental agency, looking in biodiversity, working to create wetlands, wetland creation and restoration. There are numerous jobs, but you don't need necessarily to have a job that is explicitly titled as a green job. You can implicitly embed green into the way you practice in your role. Next slide, please. So we look at the different trends, and we can see that green skills are increasingly required. For example, I encourage my learners to become more carbon literate. And Nottingham Trent University and the Nottingham Business School, we offer carbon literacy courses, and we are part of an organisation called PRME. We are PRME ambassadors and have principles for responsible management and education. And this is why I decided that I would love to advise Edupro, because Edupro is really at the forefront of sustainability within their educational programs. So it's something I personally take an interest in to add value, hopefully, to Edupro, but it's also reciprocal because I'm learning from Edupro as well. So you never stop learning. The highest demands are obviously, we mentioned somebody, pollution, controlling pollution. That's pollution into our rivers, in our water courses, pollution into the air, controlling emissions, there is more rainfall, there is more pollution going potentially into our water table. So hydrology and all these type of careers, they all exist. Four key work shifts. Okay. We're finding green skills in every job now. As I've said, it's embedded in every job. And we're getting it in building cars, we're getting it in making clothes, we're making it in the food that we eat. So it's all embedded. And we're seeing it in the support services, if you like, in the value chain. We're looking at sustainable funding, sustainable finance. One of the things I'm hoping to do to work with Edupro is to launch our own social impact bond, which is a sustainable way of funding charitable causes and at the same time developing sustainable infrastructure. We've got it in our HR functions where we're looking at employees, making sure that we retain employees, we get the work-life balance correct, and we provide benefits, not just remuneration, but we're keen to look at their health and we're doing stress risk assessments. We're providing ways supporting well-being because we're in a very, very dynamic working environment. We're sitting at our computers a lot, and mental health is a real consideration. So it's in HR. We've got roles to look at reducing carbon footprint, ensuring that we can show that we are adhering to our ESG policies and we are reporting more. We're measuring more non-financial metrics, recycling rates, package regulatory notes, carbon credits, waste minimization, levels of pollution. We are measuring more. So the accountants and the financiers are having to measure more non-financial metrics. I call this the green balance scorecard because normally it was just finance and it was money, but now it's non-financial. There is a transition in the workforce, a shift over to high carbon industries. So in these industries, they're diversifying. The oil and gas sector are diversifying away from fossil fuels into renewable energies and new green sectors. Well, green technology is really driving this. And so that's a specific sector on its own. Next slide, please. So the green careers of tomorrow. Well, this is about you future-proofing your career. You have a current state, and what you want to do when you engage on an EduPro course is to be able to say, where will I be in 2 years, 5 years' time? So the secret is what skill will be prevalent further on down the line. Now we can see that there's a lot of activity in the renewable energy sector, and this doesn't need to be big renewable energies. It can be small. At the moment, for example, we can capture methane from pre-existing landfill sites. So we can turn something that was not green, which was putting waste into a landfill, into a void, and we can actually capture methane and turn that into energy. We can actually look at smaller schemes like hydroelectric schemes where we put an Archimedes screw into the river and it provides energy for about 50 houses. We can look at combined heat and power where we can actually take uh, putrescible waste, food waste in large production and convert that into energy. We can look at significant solar energy farms and wind turbines. And we can look at the coast of our country and we can look at tidal power. A former colleague of mine, Huan Jenkins, he's involved in lots of tidal power schemes around Europe, and he was a former mineral resource engineering colleague of mine that went into sustainability and transferred his skills. Environmental engineers, particularly within land developments, housing developments, triple SIs, site-specific interests that we have to protect. Might be wild orchids. I often had to protect a land base of wild orchids. I had to protect water voles and water vole habitat because I was developing a land, but sympathetically had to ensure that the biodiversity remained or I could improve it. We've got the conversion into hydrogen and electrical vehicles. We've got managers that are involved, sustainability managers, there's a host of careers. So ESG analysis, policymakers, I just mentioned a few. And I think the best way to look at this in context is what are we creating? What are we making and what problem are we solving? Next slide, please. So the green job market is so exciting. I'm so passionate. I'm approaching 60 and I wish I was embarking as a 16-year-old or somebody in my 20s and 30s because the opportunities that green careers provide don't just provide an ability to make a living and support your family and give you a challenge, but you're actually creating something. There's nothing better than getting up in the morning and saying, I've solved a food poverty problem. I've I've created a wetland creation where habitat is now flourishing and people are enjoying. I've taken vehicles off the road and built a new canal. I've created a garment which is healthy to wear, and I'm now reducing the amount of textiles going to landfill by creating a clothing exchange. So, whatever you do in sustainability, you're doing good. And there's nothing better than doing good. As you get older, you realize that the giving is the biggest part of why you are here. And if you can give and create a career out of it, this to me is the ultimate utopia. So the demand, the countries that they exist, it's everywhere. And I had a conversation with somebody at the weekend that was a employment director for a university. And it was very interesting to see what he said. I said, "Where are the green jobs?" And he said, "They're not in the cities. They're not in the urban areas. They're in the green spaces." And when you think about it, if we've got a problem with flooding, or we've got a need to protect our coastline and create flood protection, if we have a problem that we want to create new biodiversity, or we want to generate eco farming, or we want to create a large scale renewable energy, it tends to be in the rural areas. It tends to be in where the land take is and not necessarily in the city because the city's already developed its infrastructure and all we can do is change that infrastructure to make it a bit greener. So it's interesting of where the jobs are. They are tending to be in the open spaces and they're tending to be in the rural locations. Next slide, please. So the demand for green skills. Well, a practical solution to those that are embarking and want to find green jobs. What you have to do is you have to get hold of the job specifications and you have to get hold of the job descriptions and you have to be strategic in the way that you find what are the challenges for business, what are the challenges for government, what are the challenges for local authority. So you need to think on a macro scale and audit the environment, do your own little pestle analysis, and then you'll actually find out where these jobs are and where they hang and where the opportunities are. What you are looking for is longevity and continuity in your careers, and you also want to hopefully develop further. But these are some of the jobs. We've got them in procurement, supply chain logistics, supply chain logistics, technical expertise in renewable energy. We're talking sustainable code level houses, passive homes, how we build our homes from straw bales. We're going back to old technology, old practice to make them more sustainable and deliver a higher code level. We're looking at environmental management across all industries, whether you're producing products or you're producing services. We need environmental managers. We need environmental auditors. We're looking at the circular economy principles. So we're looking to ensure that we reduce our waste. We're able to ensure where does the product go? We've got the WEEE regulations, the regulations for electrical items. We've got the European recycling platform. We've got manufacturers have a duty to collect their fridges, collect their TVs, not just leave them and decide that they're going to be sent to another part of the world. We've got to look at ways that we can recover them, recycle them, even reuse them and upcycle them. And we need to look at carbon accounting and carbon literacy. We need to look at CSR. We need to look at ESG. ethical codes of conduct in your profession. What are the requirements for you to behave in an ethical way? And so there is uh, uh, nice to see Victor from the Philippines. I had some, if you want to see sustainability in action, go to the Philippines. Um, and in the barangay and how they live and how they ensure that there's no waste and they recycle and reuse and recover everything. Um, and so energy efficiency management, again, this relates to water, it relates to electricity, climate risk assessments. Well, this is a prevalent, unfortunately, all the way around the world in terms of the climate change and how we can future-proof the way we live, the houses we build. And the policy and regulation that drives us to ensure that we meet these targets that happen at a high level and at a low level. And it's from the top up that actually shapes policy. This is the beauty of the Green Talent Award, that you are shaping policy. Believe it or not, you shape policy with your initiatives, your projects, and it's from a bottom up that we will hopefully create a greener community. Next slide, please. So 5 steps to a green career. So we can look at the certificates that Edupro and their partners and collaborators with Edupro can offer you. And rest assured, some of them are explicit and implicitly they're embedded and they are aligned to the professional bodies and needs to conform to sustainability. You have a big network in sustainable communities. And what I've found is that those that think green, those that behave green, are often similar in nature of their personalities and characters. They automatically get on. There is no agenda. They have one mission, and one mission is to save this planet and at the same time do something good, leave a legacy. And so the network that you're involved in this community is not just professional, it's personal. And then building practical skills, well, you're always learning and you have to be a good listener. And the ability to listen and learn from the people that you least expect that you will learn. And as I've said, I've learned from living in Africa, working for Anglo America, working for Hanson, having the ability to go into the Philippines, in the barangay, in the kampons of Malaysia, and in China. I've learned from so many people that I least had expected in terms of how to behave more sustainable and what it means to have a community. Now, the ESG and the trends of climate change and sustainable development, that's really interesting. That's getting involved in sustainable infrastructure development, creating a sustainable development. These could be big projects like roads, they could be energy schemes, they could be wetland creation schemes, biodiverse schemes, educational schemes. Because what we have to realize is that sustainability starts at the early age of education. It starts in our schools. So some of you may actually find you having a career actually educating the young on how to be more sustainable. And then we move into obviously incorporating sustainability very much through our life and through our careers. Next slide, please. So the learning pathways that EduPro offer, they offer these pathways which allow you to go in at all different levels with a specific theme of expertise, but being aware that the curriculum has been designed by embedding sustainability into the curriculum. And they are driven by the needs of the practitioner. So EduPro offers a host of courses for you to do that. And so next slide, please. And you can see that the collaborations that EduPro have formed have been very much by ensuring that the partners that they have the same DNA. And so we have Southampton, Solent Southampton, we've got Huddersfield, we've got the Open University, and we're very fortunate that the Leeds University has sponsored the Green Talent Award. Next slide, please. So we are now launching the Edupro Green Talent Award, and now is your opportunity to join our community. I can officially say that the Green Talent Award is now open, and there is a link for you to join. And we will explain why we believe that it's important that you join this journey. So the Green Talent Award is your ability to work as a group and work on an aspect, a theme, and it may be related to renewable energy, it may be related to waste minimization, waste reduction, it could be related to education of sustainability, but it indirectly links to the SDGs. And so recognizing sustainability through your project allows you to have the credibility to validate yourself as a sustainable leader, which will be important for your careers, but notably, it'll give you the kudos to actually, hopefully, be as passionate as somebody like me about the role we play to make our communities greener. Next slide, please. So the Edupro Green Talent Award has significant benefits. As I said, giving prestige. It's something that goes onto your CV, and it is not just professional, it's a personal accolade that you've actually come up with initiative, and this initiative can go to the next stage of being implemented. And it's also demonstrating that you have identified ways to solve problems. So it's creating an international global exposure. So the community that you're working with, not just within your team, but with the other teams and the facilitators and the experts, provide you a network that will never leave you. And it's providing you that career growth, that acknowledgement on your CV, significant skills development, and hopefully impact in the future. So Edupro Green Talent Award, we have a timeline. Round one starts with a case release on June 9th. And this case release, it explains the format, it gives you a case and the format by which you should submit through an artifact, like a poster. And then you will submit that on the 15th of July, and we will announce the result. It's most important that you realize it's not about being a winner ultimately at the end of this journey. It's about the experiences that you've had through the various rounds. And then there is the second round with a case release on the 1st of August and a case submission on the 18th. And then the result is announced on the 28th, and a slightly different format. This may be in a report. And then we graduate up to the next round, and the next successful teams that get through, they go on to a case release on the September the 1st and a submission on the 12th and a result that's announced on the 19th. And then we get to round four when we see see the presentations, and we will announce the awards. So the timeline is there, and it's also explained on the site. Now, I have to introduce you to a very close colleague of mine, and somebody that has been on my journey, and I regard him as a brother. And Faisal, very kindly, in his capacity as the head of department of the University of Leeds, who is the head of the International Business Department, has supported this through the GEL India and South Asia Business Centre International Business Department. And they are sponsoring and a main partner to allow this Green Talent Award to take place. In addition to that, we have other collaborators and sponsors, but the Leeds University has very kindly provided significant resources for this to happen. So please follow us on LinkedIn. If you go to the next slide, please. Please follow us on LinkedIn, and that will be with the network. And I will now, and there's the link for the network in terms of joining the Green Talent Awards and our LinkedIn.
Rob, just for our confirmation and for the participants, we have the Maldives Monetary Authorities. They have already endorsed our awards. So, and
Oh,
our
that's
colleagues
excellent.
are
Oh,
here.
that's excellent news. Yeah, we sent them a letter. That's wonderful news. So thank you to the Maldives Monetary Financial Fund as well. A big shout out to yourselves.
Like to congratulate Edupro UK for
Rob, yeah. So for dear participants, now we can follow the LinkedIn here. Rob, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so we've got a LinkedIn, and you're able to join the Green Talent Award through the here. So we'd like to see a poll of in terms of identifying whether you are interested in joining us on the Green Talent Award. So if you are, please register yes or no, or this is something that you might want to do in your own time. Oh, I think that tells us where we're going. Good news. I would worry if we had a no. So I think the exciting thing for all of us on this webinar is we have just created the starting point of a Green Talent Award community. So this network that you are involved in now is something that will stay with you for a very long time, hopefully. So welcome to our network. Welcome to the Edupro Green Talent Award Network. Questions and answers, I believe. Now,
if we have any questions, we can ask over here by requesting to unmute, or we can have in the chat room, please.
well, thank you. Thank you to Metab Hamid, from the director of the QEC, Al-Ahmad Islamic University in Islamabad, Pakistan. Thank you for your comments. And thank you all. And remember, Q&A is not just part of a webinar. Questions and answers are something that we do on a regular basis. So I'm more than happy and I would love to learn from yourselves and vice
Rob,
versa. If you have any questions, let me know.
Though it is just a burning question. I am just saying to you that for our discussion, probably we will be requesting and we'll be asking from our talent participants future. But this is the question: when we are talking about the sustainability, or when the food is natural, we see that in practice the food price is going higher. So how, I think this is something probably we can do. We can ask from our participants in GTA to bring it, right? So
Yeah, I
how
think
we can reduce the price of
right.
natural
This is
food?
this
Yeah,
this
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 is
is really, it's a brilliant question. I take a keen interest in the food poverty, how we eat, what we need to eat, and where we eat from. Uh, y- we've changed our habits. Let me take you back to Desaru. I'm sitting on the stilts of the mangrove. I pick a honey mango from a tree, and it's free. And I go into the Chinese campon, and they're eating crayfish. I see an 85-year-old man who is fit and hasn't got any fat on him, and he is pushing his boat down the mangrove, and he eats a diet of fish. And there's wild boar running through the forest. And everything on the land is cultivated and grown for the community. And they are paid what we earn in an hour in the UK. They earn in a day, and they build their own houses out of recovered material.
So they go get their wheel.
Jerry, I think your
They go get
microphone's
their
up.
wheel.
So what I'm saying
So,
is it's the habits by which food, and we need to revisit those. And also, food is produced genetically modified, and it has to look nice, and it has to be packaged. And we've got too much processed food. If we went back to survival, we survive off the land and grow our own food. I remember as a 10-year-old boy with my grandfather in Belgium, where we just had a well outside, and he used to pick all the fruit and veg from the allotment. And then I would go to the farmer and collect the milk and the eggs. And the only thing that was processed was our bread. Everything else was fresh, and everything was grown by ourselves. So we need to look at unfortunately, human beings have set the standards for the type of food that they want to eat, and they eat it, and it tends to be packaged and it tends to be processed. I did some work in Tuvalu in Fiji, and the problem was in Tuvalu in Fiji, the coral reef is dying, and they used to have fish, plentiful fish. And then, unfortunately, cans of processed food got into their diet. And then it started to affect obesity and reproduction. So we really do need to look at, as human beings, why are we eating and what are we eating? And why aren't we eating organic food? And why aren't we growing our own food? And why aren't we looking at the food miles? So this is self-inflicted in the cost of food going up, because we are demanding processed food and the wrong food. And natural food can be grown by us organically, and we can grow it and we can eat less. So a lot of it, in terms of food price, when you analyze it, it can be easily reduced.
thank you very much.
So energy transition, that's a really interesting one, and it seems a similar thought process, that we've become over dependent on certain energy sources like gas, and I think that a lot of this needs to be localized to community. There's some very interesting research many years ago in creating transitional towns or transitional communities where they were self-sustaining, and they would create their own energy sources. So I think it's not on large scale, it needs to be on small scale. And it's again, it's about our habits. Okay, have I picked up all questions, or I think there's some practical questions about certifications, and there's some observations about teamwork, which is very good. Access to Edupro courses, I think on the platform I have to say, one of the things, very, very impressive things I found about Edupro, and I don't apologize for saying this, and we've got the Edupro quality team here, is their virtual learning rooms, and the way that their whole internet is set up, and the delivery of digitized courses is absolutely fantastic. It's better than a lot of universities. And I think the universities could learn from Edupro on that. So the access to courses can be done online and hybrid, and there's opportunity in the learning centres to meet some of the practitioners. And what I have to say, last thing about Edupro, is that you're getting a link to a leading practitioner, the leading professional in that area. So if it's supply chain logistics, if it's human resources, if it's accounting and finance, you're finding linkage to the experts. The experts get involved within the design and the delivery of these courses, which is fairly unique. Well, it is unique in my opinion. Any other questions that I've missed off? I'm sure that there'll be opportunity for certification for engagement. Attendance is something, but it's engagement. But that's something for the quality team, maybe. Yes, they've confirmed that all our participants will get certificates for attendance. Right, I've got a big question here.
Yeah.
And I think it's from, additionally, considering the African context, funding remains a significant barrier to green initiatives, often leading to governments deprioritizing sustainable despite international support from organizations like UNESCO. How realistic is it to expect meaningful progress in green initiatives without adequate funding and proper management? That is an excellent question. Now, we have a dilemma, and the dilemma is that green technology, green activity, green initiatives, let's take electrical cars or some of the renewable energy schemes, they do require significant subsidy before they start to wash their own face. So to get these green technology advances, they have to go down the route of grant capture. So my answer to that as a financier is that we have to look at innovative ways. And so we're looking at crowdfunding through equity, crowdfunding through debt, and crowdfunding through donation. We're looking at a different type of entrepreneur. In venture capital and business angels, they tended to be involved in the for-profit sector. We are now finding social investors, social venture capitalists who are investing in not-for-profit and putting money into doing good and taking a return on their investment. And that is a growing trend. And we're also looking at other instruments such as social impact bonds and social bonds. So I'm hoping to work with Edupro to launch a social bond. And what this is, quickly, we normally give money to charities and it comes out of income. So it depletes the profitability of a company, and it has an impact on their cash flow. That is not sustainable. So what we do is we get all the individuals, companies, high net worth individuals into a room, and we market a bond. They put their money in the bond, and 25% of the value of the bond is given to a charity. And 75% of the remaining of the bond is invested in a sustainable project, like solar energy in Africa. We lend the money. And as we lend the money, over the duration of the bond, the money comes back and it's given back to the bondholders. That's a sustainable way of funding sustainable projects. A company called Alia, they're the biggest lenders to solar energy in Africa, and City Life, they are the biggest lenders to social housing. And this is all done through a very, very clever sustainable funding instrument. So there are multiple ways that we can fund sustainability. Yes, it relies on subsidy and grants, and it requires government policy to support it. But we have ways that we can fund smaller projects through crowdfunding platforms, peer-to-peer lending, social lending, and these crowdfunding platforms are able to find the right lenders, and these often fit into ESG driven projects. We've got equity investors that are now different types of equity investors, and they are social equity investors. And we've got the ability to launch social impact bonds and social bonds. So sustainable funding and finance is the answer to the problem that's been raised about can we meaningfully progress green initiatives? Yes, but it has to come through green finance.
Thanks. We have 3 questions from Kainat from Pakistan.
Yep.
I hope you can read it.
All right, so I've got them. I'll start with number 1. A science student, particularly with a background in chemistry, what entry-level jobs or internship opportunities would you recommend, especially from developing countries like Pakistan? Excellent question. Why is it an excellent question? Because my daughter is doing an A-level in chemistry, and we're currently researching, and she's doing mathematics and physics, and we're currently researching careers in chemistry because she wants to go and do a chemistry degree. Now, does she do chemical engineering or does she do pure chemistry? And what do we, if we look at chemistry in the UK, some of these courses are now being reduced in chemistry in terms of the offering. Now, what I say to a chemistry student is that you have to look at chemistry in a different way. We're looking at carbon capture, for example, anaerobic digestive waste to energy plants. We're looking at renewable energy through putrescible waste and converting kitchen waste, food waste, putrescible waste into energy. So this creates like a big battery. So we take the putrescible waste and we create a positive and a negative anode, and you create a battery from the chemical constituents of the food waste, and then we can convert that into energy. Anaerobic digestion, again, we're taking food waste on large scales and creating anaerobic digestive plants. And then we're looking at carbon capture, because carbon capture is a way of carbon offsetting, and there's some very interesting technology in there. So my answer to that one is that your skills as a chemist can be transferred into the genre of green technology, particularly in renewable energy. Can you suggest any internationally recognized affordable or free certificates that students can pursue to strengthen their green credentials and stand out in the job market? Okay, I'll give you one today. Go and do a Six Sigma white belt. And I often say sustainability is not just in the physical aspects of what we are doing to save the planet, but it's also the sustainability of the business model. How we need to make sure that the business can survive. And to do that, we have to identify where the waste is in a process, any process, a process of dating data and putting the data into a spreadsheet, and the data is used to make a decision. But the wrong data has gone into the wrong data set. So we need to error proof it to stop that happening, because now we've got a bottleneck. Now we're having to rework the data. Now the individual's taking more time, more cost. So you can see in a process, we can actually manage that process. Why does a Formula One team change 4 wheels on a Formula One car in 2 seconds? Because they've looked at the process, identified the waste in the process, and eliminated the waste. This is using lean. So what they do is they use something called workstation organization. There's a place for everything, and everything has its place. We call it the 5 S's, and we use it in our daily lives, in our desks, having a clean desk policy. So my answer to that question is go and do a free Six Sigma white belt and show your employer that you are engaged in becoming a Six Sigma black champion, because then you will move into value stream mapping. And that gets really interesting because you're looking at ways that we can create a future state for ways that we build cars, for example. Here's the current state, but what could the future state look like? What's the voice of the customer? What do we need? We need to go away from petrol and diesel. We need to go to electric. And being able to be analytic through process, we mentioned these skills of system thinking, and we mentioned things of normative thinking. We mentioned things of critical thinking and problem solving. You'll get that for your first lean white belt. So there's one for you, and you can do it for free. But then you'll have to pay from the next belts, but you can negotiate with your employer to do that as part of your package. So don't just negotiate the rewards package and the money and the salary. Say, I want training. And what do I want? I want to do the green belt, the yellow belt, the green belt, and then the black belt. What's the best way for students to showcase their small-scale sustainability efforts, such as volunteering? Create a blog. Create your own blog. Put it out there. 15 years ago, I answered that question, and I created Green Gains. And the Green Gains initiative was everybody that would engage in green and show that they've gained something from it. And I created my own little web platform, and I created a network. And so the best way for you to showcase is become part of the Edupro community, and you will find yourself on LinkedIn. They will show yourself sharing your volunteering exploits, word of mouth. But if you want to do something that create a following, your own following, then create your own blog of volunteering. And volunteering is very wholesome, giving something back. I give a lot back to my community in Radford with an organization called HIMA, and we provide, we solve the food poverty problem, and we get supermarkets donating food, we distribute food, and we help people to cook, and we always provide meals for them at the weekend. And we're similar types of people when we all get together. So yes, hopefully I've answered those 3 questions.
Thanks, Rob. We have another question. What specific brain skills are most critical today to ensure a sustainable and inclusive future tomorrow? And how can we scale their development across all sectors? This is very time consuming.
That's a huge, that's a political question. Okay. So I'll take it in parts. The specific qualifications depend on the direction that you want to take. Qualifications aren't always to do with hard skills. They're to do with the soft skills, and how those soft skills can align and blend themselves with your soft skills. So I found personally, I teach finance and accounting students, and I say to them, if you want to go and work in an investment bank, just by having a finance qualification is not going to get you where you need to go. You need to have technical insight. So I go back to see, what did you do before? What is your family business? What is your interest? Okay, retail or mining or construction. And so you have to have a focus on a technical aspect. This could be transport. It could be motor vehicles. It could be commercial property. It could be house building. It could be different modes of transport. So whatever you do, you bring in that theme, and then from that theme, due to your own interest and way of learning and your inquisitive nature, you're reading about it, you're in institutions, you take a keen interest in it, you look at it on the news, you haven't signed up to any particular course, but you become an expert in it. And once you become an expert and a specialist in this genre, in this sector, you'll find that there's sustainability challenges, business improvements that are always going to be needed. And then you use your own qualified skills as a practitioner, whether that's in HR, whether that's in audit, whether that's in finance, whether that's in accounting, whether that's in marketing, to actually become the green practitioner. So if you're in marketing, you're able to be a green practitioner by understanding the voice of the green consumer, and then you market to the green consumer. If you're in transport, you're looking at ways that we can take vehicles off the road and reduce pollution. So you're not just looking at one form of transport, you're looking at intermodal transport and the habits by which we commute and the habits by which we travel, encouraging people to be not to drive one person in one car, to pool the amount of people in cars, to reduce the use of cars, to increase the amount of public transport, and so, to walk, to create open spaces, to think about how we travel. So what I'm saying is very simply, have a focus on something you're passionate in that sector, and then link your specialist professional role to the sector, and then you will be guaranteed to have a green impact.
Rob, we have multiple questions, but I think we can answer since we are on time up, just the last question. There are many questions, but I read one for the last one. What are some sustainable agricultural practices that can reduce environmental impact? How can we promote organic farming and reduce chemical use? This is the last question, please, to answer.
Right. I think this goes back to a basic way that unfortunately the human race has developed in terms of consumerism, in terms of we're living in a society where we have to have a car, we have to live in a house, we have to eat this type of food, we have to wear these type of clothing. This is the status quo. And sometimes I think Japanese philosophy is very interesting. Western philosophy is don't break it. Don't break it. Keep it as it is. Japanese philosophy is break it. Give me a problem. A problem is a treasure. If you break it and give me a problem, I can improve it. So when you're actually looking at this question, when you are brainstorming an idea to be greener, you use what we call a reverse idea. Generate more waste. Increase my energy bills. Create more pollution. And when you find out what's causing it, then we can go back and we can actually nullify it and reduce it. Now, I have to put something out there, and it's not being provocative. There can be no, we could get zero landfill. We have to minimize waste. But when we minimize waste, for example, there's a tension, because the people who have companies that handle waste and are told to reduce the waste, they've priced a contract on the amount of waste arising. And therefore there's no incentive for them to reduce the level of waste, because they're collecting all this waste and now they're told to reduce the waste. So then how do we incentivize them? Well, we've got to incentivize them through a recycling scheme, a carbon credit scheme, a package regulatory note scheme. So what we are doing psychologically is that we're saying, we need you to get back to where we were. And the only way I can get you back to where we were is to financially incentivize you to do that. However, as individuals, we don't need to do that. Individuals, we can go and change our life habits. in what we eat, what we wear, what we spend, how we drive, how we travel, what energy source we use. So some of it actually is with us as individuals, and consequently, then if all the individuals do the same thing and we create transitional communities, transitional eco communities, and we become a sustainable community, we can do this, but can we do it en masse? And I say when we do it en masse, that requires the legislator, the government, central government, countries, and policymakers to almost consider sanctions and being authoritative, because unfortunately, individuals and organizations make a lot of money, but by not being green and not being sustainable. So my answer is everybody on this call today, you have a duty of care to yourselves and your families and your communities to live in the right way. And if you set the standard, if you want to go and join a company, they have to share the same values as you. It's most important that you look at their CV and they're not just looking at your CV. Okay?
Thanks, Rob. It was very interactive and excellent. Kindly, if you conclude it.
Okay, so there's, as I say, can I have the copy of these questions retained, and I will I'm more than happy to give them a written response to them through Edupro's LinkedIn, so that we keep the community going. Because this,
Yeah, thank you.
what we have,
Definitely.
what we have here on this chat is Green Talent asking questions, and it's most important that Green Talent asking questions, we share ideas to these questions. So the process has started now. These are fantastic questions. Bangladesh, solid waste challenges. I could stay here all evening. But MSc project management, yeah, you need Northampton, wonderful university. You need to get in touch with Northampton, David Conway. David Conway. I met him at the weekend. He's the director for entrepreneurship. He's the director for employability at Northampton, David Conway. Please get hold of him, mention my name. That was the person I was having a discussion about. Green jobs are in rural locations. And if you want to know about sustainable jobs and green jobs, speak to David Conway, who is the Director of Employability at Northampton. What are the sustainable agricultural practices that can reduce environmental impact? Well, there's a lot of research going on in growing food vertically to reduce land take. We need to get off fertilizers. So when I was in business, we would often look at the soils and enrich the soils in their calcium content. So we would use lime to look at the growing media of these soils. So my answer to that is soil scientists need to look at improving the yields through natural organic fertilizers as opposed to genetically modified crops. And so there's a lot that could be done by looking at the ways that we revert to old farming techniques as opposed to some of the chemical interventions, and improving the yields. And also we need to look at the sum of the parts, because we have a lot of allotments and small farms. And unfortunately, we've gone into a position where we've gone into we can only make it economically viable on large scale. And we need to look at ways that we can actually create livelihoods out of small farming operations as opposed to big operations. So there's a social economic issue in terms of farming. Okay. Well, look, I'm really enjoying you as a community, and I'm hoping that I'd be invited again to do one of these webinars. And I will love the opportunity to answer these questions and also be available. And I'd like to know where your careers go, what your aspirations are. So if anything I can help you on a personal level, I will do. But rest assured, you're in wonderful hands and safe hands with the Edupro community. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for your engagement.
Thank you very much. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Have a good day.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.